Hi everybody, welcome. In today's video, I'm going to be testing out some new products from Physicians Formula. I have the new Physicians Formula Butter Believe It Putty Primer. I have their Butter Believe It Foundation and Concealer, as well as the Matte Monoi Butter Bronzer and the Butter Blowout Mascara. So I'm going to be doing a first impressions review and wear test today, testing out all of these new Physicians Formula products. These videos tend to get a little bit long, so I'm going to quit talking and we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. Starting off with primer, again, this is the Physicians Formula Butter Believe It Putty Primer. It says that this is an ultra luxurious velvety smooth putty primer infused with our proprietary butter complex to deliver a radiantly soft poreless complexion. Incredibly creamy and buttery texture helps prep skin and allows makeup to glide on smoothly for all day wear. What I'm going to do with this is actually just apply it to half of my face to see if it aids in the wear of my foundation at all. So to apply it, it says that you're just supposed to kind of like warm it up on your finger. It is very, I guess I'll use the term buttery because that's their word, but it honestly feels a little bit greasy to me. But again, I'm just going to apply this to half of my face. You're supposed to use your fingers, and then it says to let it set for 30 seconds before you apply the foundation on top of it. So I'm going to prep this half of my face here with the primer. So again, I've got the primer on this half of my face. Going on, again, it did feel a little bit greasy. It feels a tad bit heavy, but overall, it kind of feels like a traditional pore filling primer. Yeah, I mean, it feels fine on my skin. Again, pretty standard, but it does say to let it set for 30 seconds before you put foundation on top of it, so I am going to do that. Okay, so the primer has set now, and again, I think it's, again, like a pretty standard primer on my skin, nothing weird. I do think that it helped kind of mattify this half of my face a little bit, but again, the true test is just going to be if it aids in the wear of my foundation at all. So moving on to the foundation, again, I've got the Physicians Formula Butter Believe It Foundation and Concealer. This says that it basically melts into your skin, leaving a natural radiant glow, while the long-wearing weightless Moo Butter formula provides buildable coverage, and it is available in 12 different shades. As of right now, I believe that you can only get this on Physicians Formula website, but according to them, it is coming to stores soon. They didn't say when, but it will eventually be in stores. But again, for now, it's just available on their website. I also had the shade Fair to Light. Normally, I would purchase the lightest shade. However, it looked really yellow. So this Fair to Light version appeared to have the most kind of like neutral undertone, which is why I went for this. Again, there is one shade lighter than this though, so this is Fair to Light. I just took one pump between my fingers to start, and I'm going to apply this all over my face. Again, it says that kind of like right off the bat, this is supposed to provide a medium coverage, and then you can build it up to full coverage if you want to. So again, just taking one pump, I'm going to apply this with my fingers all over my skin, and then I'm going to smooth it out with a brush to get rid of any streaks or anything like that. So my immediate impression of putting this on my skin is that it does feel pretty greasy. And honestly, the name of this kind of bothers me. Like Butter Believe It, it reminds me of like, I can't believe it's not butter. So I'm not surprised, I guess, that it feels greasy. It does have the like moo, whatever it is. Yeah, moo butter in it, as well as like a couple other butters. And from what I can tell from looking it up online is it's kind of like a nut butter, I think. It reminds me, like looking at pictures of it, reminds me a lot of coconut oil. So I don't know. I get why they named it what they did, but the fact that they're using butter in the title, I guess, is a little bit off-putting to me. Again, kind of like reminds me of I can't believe it's not butter. But anyway, just still applying this with my fingers, and then I'm going to go ahead and smooth it out with a brush like I mentioned. All right, I've got that all blended out. Again, I've got one layer all over my skin. I do think that I used a little bit too much product. One pump went a lot further than I thought, so I had some trouble blending it in, but it's just because I think I had an excess of product, so I did have to work with it a little bit, but overall, I think it looks really nice on my skin. I definitely have a medium coverage, very much trending on full coverage. So I'm very happy with the initial coverage that I ended up getting. I don't know if I really need to build this up at all. I probably will just for the sake of the video so we can see how it wears, but honestly, like I'm happy with the coverage right out of the gate. Like I said, it did feel a little bit greasy going on initially, but as I blended it out, it ended up being kind of like a very natural finish. It's definitely kind of radiant, I guess, like they said. It's not overly dewy though. It's not matte. It is a bit tacky on my skin, so I will have to set this. There's not too much of a difference, and I don't think that you'll be able to tell on camera, but I can tell that my pores look slightly better on the side that I used the primer than the side that I didn't. So it does look kind of a little bit smoother, especially in this cheek area here on the side that I used the primer, but even on the side that I didn't use the primer, it certainly doesn't look bad. But like I said, the real test is going to be if the primer helps it wear any better. I have relatively normal skin. I'm not overly dry. I'm not overly oily. So again, we'll just see if the primer helps this side of my face with the wear throughout the day. Hopefully the foundation doesn't, you know, break up or do anything. So I think we'll be able to compare again at the end of the day when I do the check-in. But overall, right out of the gate, I'm pretty pleased with it. I'm going to go ahead and put just a little bit more. I honestly don't know if I want to. I think it'll just be too heavy. I'll put a little bit more on my cheeks and just see how it builds up to see how it feels and how it looks. So let's do that really quick. So I just blended out that second layer. Again, I went pretty thin. So I did a little bit on both of my cheeks. I did end up patting what was left on my fingers kind of in the center of my face here to see if I could like cover up any of my freckles and like around my nose. And then I did go ahead and put, again, just a little bit more on my forehead to kind of like even it all out. And I do think that I'm at like full coverage. This looks really good. It does feel a bit heavy on my skin. It's certainly not like weightless like they claim, but again, I have full coverage and pretty much 2 layers of foundation on my skin. So that considered, it actually feels pretty nice, but it still does feel a little bit heavy. Again, it is still like pretty tacky on my skin, so I am gonna go ahead and set really quick before we move on to the bronzer. Okay, so my face is all set. I just used my CoverGirl Professional Loose Powder to set, and then I went ahead and put something on my lips too. Overall, I am very pleased with how the foundation looks. Putting the setting powder on, it is still just like a little bit tacky. It didn't make it completely matte, but I kind of imagined that. And I think that for being a pretty full coverage foundation, I mean, it certainly looks, you can tell that I have foundation on my skin. Again, it's not like completely weightless. It's not invisible. Like you can tell I have makeup on, but for having 2 full layers of product, I think that it actually looks pretty nice. But again, we'll see how it wears. That will be the true test. Also, I did not end up putting concealer anywhere on my face. I did put just a little bit of concealer underneath my eyes, just right in the area that I had some darkness to conceal, but I did not put concealer anywhere else on my face. Normally, I would conceal like around my nose, on my forehead, on these blemishes, things like that. But sometimes I think that the concealer can alter the way that a foundation wears. So this will be, again, like a true test of what the foundation does on its own. So again, no concealer on my face, just setting powder. Moving on to the bronzer now. Again, I have the matte Monoi Butter Bronzer. So from what I understand, this is kind of supposed to be like the original Butter Bronzer, but a more matte version. I do have the original Butter Bronzer, so I will insert a close-up here so you can see them side by side. Again, the matte Monoi is supposed to be matte. The Butter Bronzer, the original one, has a bit of a sheen to it. So looking at the swatches of these two side by side, the original Butter Bronzer is on the bottom and then the matte Monoi Bronzer is on the top. Honestly, they look pretty similar to me. The matte bronzer is a little bit more orangey than the original. The matte Monoi does come in 2 different shades, and I have just the like original. It's just called matte bronzer, and then I think the darker shade is called like their Sunkissed bronzer or something like that. I am going to try to bronze my entire complexion. I don't feel like I really need it. I actually think that that foundation shade ended up being a pretty good match for me. Maybe like half a shade too dark, but again, the lighter one looked to be too yellow, so I'm glad that I went with this one just for the purposes of the undertone. But I'm gonna put the bronzer on now, and I hope it doesn't make me look like a clown, but oh well, we'll see what happens. I do, for the record, love the original Butter Bronzer, so I don't know. We will see with this one. Again, I think the one pro to the matte version is that it might be a nicer contour shade than the original Butter Bronzer, but we'll see when I put this on my skin. So again, I'm just gonna go ahead and bronze up my entire complexion with this really quick. Okay, right off the bat, one thing to note, this is way more powdery than the original one. I'll see if I can show you. I hope that you could see that, but when I swirled my brush in, again, it is super powdery and I got a lot of kickback, and I don't have that happen to me with the original one. So I don't know. It's not really a big deal, I guess, just something to note. This one seems like a much kind of like more powdery, softer formula, I suppose, than the original. Again, just kind of like right off the bat. I think overall it looks pretty nice on my skin. I mean, it's a pretty standard bronzer, and again, it's so kind of like subtle that I don't notice a huge difference between this and the way that the original Butter Bronzer looks on my skin. But I am going to put this in like as a contour and see how it looks. Just moving to an angled brush now. It looks nice as an overall bronzer, but this is probably not the best shade for me to use as a contour, just again, because it's a little bit more like orangey. The other thing that I should mention about this product is the smell. I love the original Butter Bronzer smell. This one smells a little bit like this, but it's way more floral. Personally, I don't really like it very much. It's quite strong, and again, it's like a very like fake floral smell. So I don't know, not my favorite. I definitely prefer the smell of the original, so I'm kind of torn on the bronzer. It's going to be hard to tell how this wears throughout the day because I don't know. It's just hard to tell how bronzers wear for the most part, but I mean, no complaints. It looks nice. I just think that I still probably prefer my original Butter Bronzer to the matte version. I'm going to go ahead and apply the rest of my makeup really quickly, and then we will be back to test out the mascara. Okay, so last but not least, we have the mascara. Again, this is the Physicians Formula Butter Blowout Mascara. This is supposed to, it says, provide full-blown volume and length, and this is infused with keratin as well. Right away looking at this, the formula looks pretty nice. I am typically somebody who enjoys a drier mascara. I think that I get better volume that way. I usually go for something that's more volumizing as opposed to lengthening. So I am excited about this brush. It looks to be a pretty, volumizing brush. And the formula is kind of like right in the middle. It doesn't look like it's a super dry formula, but it also doesn't look to be super wet, which is probably good. The only thing I'm noticing right away is that I'm picking up a lot of product on the brush. I don't know if you saw in the other shot that I included, but I'll try to show you here again as well. Again, I didn't notice that before, but now when I took it out of the tube again, you can tell like right around the base of the brush, it's grabbing a lot of product. I'm going to wipe that part off before I apply it onto my lashes because I don't want that much product on my lashes or they're all just gonna like stick together and clump together. So, all right, let's just go ahead. I'm gonna apply this to one eye. I'll do one coat and see how it looks. That ended up going on actually way better than I thought, and it appears to be drier than I initially thought looking at the formula. It could, again, be because I scraped a lot of the product off, but either way, I'm happy with how they look. Overall, I feel like I got some really like nice soft volume as well as some length. Again, this is just one coat over here. So on this eye now, again, I dipped back in. I feel like I'm picking up a lot of excess product on the brush. So this time I'm not going to wipe it off and I'm going to see how it applies on this eye. So again, this eye over here now has one coat, but unlike the first eye, I did not wipe off any excess product on the edge of the bottle. So I do feel like over here, because the formula was like a little bit wetter, I had more product. Similar to what I thought, a bunch of my lashes kind of started to clump together. It's not super bad by any means. I could still work with it. I had to work a little bit harder though over here to kind of separate my lashes and get some nice volume than I did over here. So I do feel like, again, because I had a little bit more product, it seems to be a little bit more lengthened over here as well, but I do prefer this side where I wiped off a little bit of the excess product. So again, one coat on both eyes right now. I'm going to go ahead now and apply a second coat to each of my eyes and we will see what it looks like. Okay, second coat is done. So I have 2 coats on my upper lashes and then 1 coat on my lower lashes. When I went back for the second coat, I did end up again kind of scraping off some of the excess product. I don't know, I guess, if that is standard, like if you're just gonna pick that much product up on the brush, or if there's maybe like something malfunctioning inside of my tube. I'm not really sure, but either way, I really like this eye. This eye looks really nice. You can tell I do have like really nice soft volume. My lashes are really separated, and I did get pretty decent length out of this eye as well. Again, what happened over here is that I think I had too much product on the brush for the first coat, so it was a little bit harder to work with on the second coat, and my lashes just look a little bit more, they still look okay. I mean, I still have like volume and length, I think, but they just kind of all stuck together again because I had an excess of product over here, and then after that happened, I couldn't really remedy it by the time I got to the second coat. So overall, I do really like the way that this eye turned out. Again, I'm not sure if that's like a standard thing where you're gonna pick that much product up on your brush, or if maybe there's just a malfunction within like the stopper in my tube, but either way, I'd probably recommend scraping off and going in with a little excess product because I do think that it looks really nice over here. So we will see if it flakes or if it smudges throughout the day, but as of right now, I really like it. So again, I'm gonna go ahead now and wear this makeup for the rest of the day for 8 hours, and then we'll be back here at the end of the night to share my final thoughts and let you know how all of the products wore. Okay, you guys, it is now the end of the day. I have been wearing this makeup all day. I have not touched it at all. So overall, it looks okay. It is pretty shiny, which I expected. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, honestly, because it doesn't exactly say how it's supposed to wear. This does say that it leaves a natural, radiant, glowing complexion. It doesn't claim to be matte or anything, but it does claim to be long wearing. So anyway, I wasn't really sure how it was gonna wear throughout the day, and it's pretty much like I expected, just knowing the texture of it and things. It did get pretty shiny. Normally, if it was starting to get shiny on my skin like this, I would have at least like blotted or something throughout the day. So that considered, it's not bad, but it does look extra shiny in my T-zone. It has very slightly also kind of broken apart around this part of my face. So I have very like minimal smile lines, but still, I mean, everybody has those where they make expressions throughout the day and things. The product has settled in there a little bit, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell, it's really, really subtle, but I do have a little bit of it kind of breaking up around the sides of my mouth. I can see where the foundation is kind of like sitting on top of my skin and pulling apart a little bit. It's breaking up kind of around my nose too, where it got really greasy throughout the day. As far as the primer goes, I'm honestly not noticing a huge difference. Yeah, I mean, if right through here, honestly, like, so on my forehead and on my cheeks and things, I really don't notice a difference at all. But looking kind of right here on my cheeks and around my nose, the side with the primer is over here. It does look just like the slightest bit more matte than the other side. But again, it's not really drastic at all. I would say, again, maybe just like right through here, it kind of helped keep some of the shine down. With the bronzer, I can tell kind of on my cheeks where I put the contour, I mean, it's still there. I can still see the color, so it's not like the bronzer faded at all throughout the day all that much. It's hard to tell where I kind of like sweep the bronzer over the rest of my face as I imagined, but again, where I placed it for the contour, I can still tell that I have a lot of product there, so that's fine. And then moving on to the mascara, overall, I think the mascara looks nice. It didn't smudge or transfer at all, but I have noticed I've got, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 little flakes underneath my eye here where it kind of flaked off a little bit, but nothing too bad. Again, normally if I was like looking at myself throughout the day and like touching up, I would have just kind of like swept those little flakes away, and it doesn't bother me all that much. The biggest deal breaker for me with a mascara is always if it smudges or if it transfers. That's always a lot harder to kind of take care of than the little flakes. Usually those just like sweep off pretty nicely. And again, I don't mind, you know, doing that throughout the day. So yeah, I definitely think that I'll continue to use the mascara. Overall, I think, again, it just kind of, it wore exactly how I expected it to, quite honestly. I knew that it would probably get a little bit greasy and a little bit shiny, especially considering that this is like full coverage and I put pretty much 2 full layers all over my skin. I think next time that I use this foundation, I'll go in with a lighter layer and probably stick to the true medium coverage. I'll probably avoid building it up because again, where it kind of got heavy like in the center of my face and on my forehead, it's not terrible, but I just think I'd have a little bit better wear out of it if I didn't build it up and I did a lighter layer. So I think I'll continue doing that in the future. I'm not noticing any breakouts, which is something that I was a little worried about with the butter stuff in here, but I do think I'd probably have to use it a couple of more times to tell whether it would actually break me out or not, but no irritation or no breakouts or anything like that upon the first use. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with the way that everything wore. As far as the bronzer goes, again, nice product. I just prefer my original Butter Bronzer, so I'll probably be reaching for this one. Same thing with the primer. Again, I don't think it was necessarily a bad product. I just don't think that it really did all that much. I'm somebody who likes to wear like as minimal products on my face as I can. So if this didn't really do a ton, I'm not going to take the time to put an extra product on my skin. So this is probably something that I will skip again in the future, but I do really like the mascara. I'm going to continue using this. Same thing with the foundation. I'm pretty pleased overall. I will continue using this product as well, but I'll probably be making a few tweaks to the wear like I mentioned and just going in with a little bit lighter application in the future. And that's going to complete this video testing out the new Physicians Formula Butter Believe It line. I hope that you guys enjoyed and that you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below. I would really appreciate it. As always, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.